So I had a question. Back to our laundromat questions we're going on. I had a question about rental property. You know, I've got a few rentals left. I have two actually. I had about 30 at one time. I got rid of a bunch because I got into laundromats, and I love laundromats a lot. I also have some farm ground. The question came up about evictions and finding tenants for rental property. And I have a little bit of a system when it comes to finding tenants. I have a 4-step system to finding what I consider to be a good tenant. Hear that? That's the sound of money. You wanna know what sound of money is? That's it. Ching, 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 ching. Ching, 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 ching. Well, here's today's project. We got old Willie helping us. We get all this crap that we took out of the place. We've been cleaning, trying to get it built better. He's gonna load that up.
You want me to turn this just the other way?
That's good that way. I'll help you in a minute. Alright, we're going to go in here. I got another project. Well, he does that. Alright, what I have here is basically a bill breaker. Get this open for you. Now what I have here is what they call a bill breaker, and this is probably one of the coolest things you'll ever see. And I got this from Vendors Tech. Now they have a YouTube channel, and he talks about bill validators, bill breakers. He's very helpful, and so if you ever have questions, go to their channel, message him, whatever. He is the person to go to for your bill validators. He fixes mine, he cleans them, he does all that kind of work. So huge shout out to Vendors Tech. They were in Colorado. And I'm going to show you what I got here. Basically inside that change machine there's a computer that tells the hopper to dissipate. There's a computer inside that hopper. There's two of them on each side for each bill validator, and it tells them to dispense money. And this is it. Nothing real fancy. This is the plug-in. Now, I already have bill validators, so you're like, why do you need new computers? Well, in this box here, these two boxes, these are bill validators. They're not just any bill validator. I'll leave that in there. I'll open this up and show you. They're not just any bill validator. They're a bill validator and breaker. Now I know what you're thinking. You're like, what is a breaker? Well, that's what a bill breaker is. Basically, it'll accept 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. Let me end the picture here for you, because you like looking at my face. Basically, it accepts 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. And basically what a bill breaker is you know how there's three types of laundromats, one that gains quarters, one that just stays even, and one that loses them. Well, this laundromat here loses quarters, but what's happening is people are putting in big bills because there's nobody here to break their bills. So in unattended laundromats, it's one of the biggest problems you'll have is people come in with a 20, they don't want $20 worth of change, they might only want 5 or 10. So you can either go out and spend $4,000 on a bill breaker, which is a dedicated change machine that just breaks bills. You put a 20 in, it gives you 4 5s. You put a 10 in, it gives you 2 5s. And that's pretty much how it works. I mean, it breaks 10s and 20s down. So there's another option though. If you already have a dual change machine and you're getting ready to buy new bill validators anyway because they're old like mine, well then you can buy one of these bill breakers, and like the chart says here, it takes 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s and pays back in 5s. So basically, if you put a 10 in, it gives you 2 5s back. Then you put the 5 in, it gives you change. So it's really kind of a neat setup, and it's really just to break down your $20 bills. So this is a bill breaker, and what it does, you can pick 1s or 5s. And what I mean by that is, when you put a $20 bill in, it'll spit out 5. When you put a $20 bill in, it'll spit out 4 $5 bills to your customers. Now they can put 1 5 in and get quarters, put another 5 in and get more quarters. What this does for you is it keeps people from taking $20 worth of quarters and going out the door, and then you got to go to the bank and get more. And in the industry, we call them bill breakers. So I'm real excited to put these in. I'm going to show you the whole process. I just got them. So probably in the next couple of days I'll do this, but I got to come in, I actually got to take the plasma cutter and I got to cut the hole bigger, and I'm going to show you why. And this is the machine right here. And it's a special bill validator. You can't just do this to any MEI bill validator. So I'll break it. Okay, put that box. Jesus. The reason I have to cut it is because this bezel, the reason I have to cut it is this bezel, my bezel is only about that tall. So I have to cut this opening, which my change machine allows me to do that, and it'll still mount factory-wise. But it just sits in there like that, and then this is your stacker for your bills. And you just pull it out like you normally would. And I'll take that apart real quick and show you. And this is where the $5 bills go. This is the genius part. I'm not even 100% sure. There we go. Pull that out. And in here, let's see, you open it up like that to empty it. And to open up the recycler, you just push up on this tab and it opens it up like that. Pretty damn ingenious. And before I break anything, I'm going to read up how to load it. And you got all your dip switches right there on this. Dip switches right there on the side. It actually will tell you a code on the back for errors. It tells you right here. It tells you more of the error codes on the top. But like I said, it's called a bill. It's an MEI bill recycler. So the nice thing is this single-handedly, I got 2 of them, 1 for each side, and then you just make sure that you put up your good signage so that you know what it pays you back in. Sorry, I'm trying to read all these things. So that's what I'm excited about. And this what I love about this new bezel is it lights up. I mean, this thing lights up down here and it lights up here, so my customers will know it's working, which I like. Now you might say to me, you got 2 bill validators in there working, what are you going to do with those? Well, since I buy change machines that use all the same bill validators, now I have 2 spares I can use elsewhere. Or I can go make my own change machine. Because like I said, to run these bill validators from American Changer, since that's an American Changer, you got to have a different computer board. That computer board in there is not capable of running a bill recycler. So I had to buy new computers. Now, altogether, for both sides, this cost me like $2 grand, which it's $1,000 a side. A bill validator by itself could be $300–400. So this is pretty cheap date to convert my laundromat over, so I don't have to worry about losing quarters all the time anymore. Now, I'm an opportunist, so what I will do is I will take those computers and those bill validators, I will take them to the laundromat, number one, that has a single bill validator and that change machine, and I will make my own through the wall one. And I'll take you through that process too, where I'll buy steel plating, cut holes, cut the wall, put it in, and it's going to be a pretty neat setup because I have very little space to mount one to a wall, but I have a real ingenious way to mount one and then kind of remotely put the coin hoppers so they can feed into it.
See, the magic of time, look at that, got that all cleaned up. Always got it all loaded on my truck.
That's why when you have a business, you want to have helpers, because he was doing this while I was doing something else. You may spend money, but at least you're getting stuff done. You can't do it by yourself, folks. So I had a question. Back to our laundromat questions we're going on. I had a question about rental property. You know, I've got a few rentals left. I have two actually. I had about 30 at one time. I got rid of a bunch because I got into laundromats, and I love laundromats a lot. I also have some farm ground. The question came up about evictions and finding tenants for rental property. And I have a little bit of a system when it comes to finding tenants. I have a 4-step system to finding what I consider to be a good tenant. Now, I'm not saying this system's perfect, but I have the 4 steps. Step number 1 is after you put your sign up for rent and you got it sitting up there, don't answer the phone. Keenan, you put a sign up, you got a number, you want them to rent it, you don't answer the phone? No. Let them leave a message. And on your message you say, please leave your name and your number and what property you're calling about, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. People are like, well, why do you want to leave a message? Well, first, this is a test. Not only are these 4 steps, they're the 4 tests that Keenan has to see if you're worthy enough to rent my property. So test number 1 is, can they leave a message that makes sense? And can they comprehend what you're telling them to do? Can they follow an instruction? First, they got to leave their name, then they got to leave their number, and you got to be able to understand it. Don't play the message 6 times trying to make out what they said. I don't do that. Step number 2, once you have the message and you've called them, they've responded, and you set up an appointment. Step 2 is the appointment. And you go, how do you gauge a tenant on the appointment? Oh, it's easy. Basically what I tell the tenant is okay, I do not make an appointment for the same day I call them. And this is part of the test. We're going to see if they can plan out a couple days in advance. If they can keep to a schedule. Because if they can't keep to a schedule going to an appointment, how are they going to pay you rent? I thought it was pretty damn genius. If they can't keep to a schedule, how are they going to pay you rent? And I know you might be frustrated because when you get a rental property, especially if it's your first one, you just want to rent it right away. That's the biggest mistake a noob can make, because what you end up doing is getting the worst tenant. You find the ones that are what we call career tenants that know how to go after you, and those prey on noobs. So don't be a noob. Just trust me on this. This is why when I tell you real estate advice, I say buy 1 property and cut your teeth. Don't get 10 rental properties first day out of the gate, because you'll be stressed trying to make all these payments. You'll be stressed trying to get them rented. You'll have utilities, taxes, insurance coming in. Trust me. So the appointment, let's get back to that because it's a crucial part of this test. I set the appointment for no more or no less than about 3 days out. And I also set multiple appointments up. So like if I'm calling 10 people back, I set them all for the same day. And you say, yeah, that makes sense because I don't want to go to this house every other day or multiple times in a day. And what I tell the person at the end of this conversation is I said, hey, by the way, I got one more little thing you need to do for me, and that's this. 30 minutes before you're supposed to meet me at this house, I need you to either call me or text me and say that you're coming. If you don't do those 2 things, I'm not going to this house and there's not going to be anybody there. I'm not, okay? And every time they go, okay. You will have a percentage of people that never text you, never call you, and never show up. And that's how you weed them out. It's genius, right? I've been doing that for years. And the funny part is I told my realtor about this one day, and my realtor goes, I should do that for house appointments. I'm like, your time is worth money. Don't let these people waste your time. And I don't understand why realtors don't do more of it, because if I had a cold call from somebody that's never bought a house from me that I have no relationship with, I would so do that to them. But people like realtors get to the point they need to make money, so they get afraid that if they don't run, they don't jump, One part about business I'm going to get into, and then I'm going to get back to my subject here. You need to run your business, not let your business run you. Just like a laundromat. I don't let these customers run me. I run this place. This is my place, and this is how it's going to run. You're going to have a percentage of people that don't like that. Well, they can go build their own laundromat and see how it works out for them. And sometimes you have to adjust your philosophy, but you need to stick to running your business the way you're going to run it. And I'm going to do a shout out to another channel, Choked Full of Quarters. It's an older couple that's retired and bought a laundromat, and they do just this. And they go through all the steps. So if you're out there thinking about doing a laundromat, honestly, it's a channel I started watching because they popped up on a comment, and I went to see their channel, see what it was about. And it's funny because it's exactly what I would suggest for people that are going to get into a laundromat that don't know if they can do it. Here's an example of a couple that also never did it before and probably really didn't have any real estate background at all other than working a full-time job. Choked Full of Quarters is a very good laundromat channel and business channel so that you can kind of see how they're going through it, because without ever having any background. So, you know, a lot of people look at me and they say, Keenan, you've been doing this forever, your parents did this forever, you've grown up this your whole life. This is really a lot of what I know. They didn't grow up that way. So it's neat to watch them go through the same thing. So, like I said, go check out their channel. And some of you subscribers on my channel, I know you already watch them, and that's awesome. If you don't, I highly suggest you go over and check out their channel and leave a comment on one of their videos, because that helps a lot. So give them a thumbs up, go give them a comment and say, hey, this crazy white guy suggested this. Just put that on their comments. I think it'd be funny for them. So, like I said, they got a really good channel, and I'm excited for them because they were able to buy something that makes them a lot of money until they're having a lot of fun. Now, on the 4-step plan, step number 3, now you've got the appointment. You told them to call you. They called you or they text you and they're showing up. What's step 3? What is, and I'm going to ask this question to everybody, what is the single most important asset that a tenant or future renter has? What is their greatest asset? What is their most valuable prized possession? Now think about that for a minute. You're like, Keenan, they don't own a house. I just throw in dryer sheets away. How could they have a prized possession? They do. And this one prized possession will teach you more about these people than any other thing they own. And I love this trick. Now, I'm not the only landlord that does this, because I have buddies that do this too, and we talk about this and we laugh about how this is the single greatest way to tell how a tenant is. And I'm going to tell you what that is. The single greatest thing that your tenant has in their possession is their mode of transportation. It's their car. It's their truck. Think about it. If they don't have this, they don't make money. They don't go anywhere. They don't get groceries. They can't come see you. Take a look at this item that is their prized possession. If you want to know how they're going to treat your house, how do they treat their most prized possession? Genius, isn't it? It is. It's one of the greatest ways to tell what you're getting yourself into. So here you have their prized possession. And you say, Keenan, what do you mean? How do you check out their prized possession? What I do is, I don't go in the property right away. I might get there early. If they text me 30 minutes and I'm not 30 minutes away, I will get there a little early, open the door, turn the lights on. If I get there after they do, what I do is I park a little ways away from them so that I have to walk by their prized possession. I have to walk by their car. And you say, well, what do you do? And I said, well, what I do is I do a visual inspection of the car on the outside. And people, you're like, Jesus, this is weird. Well, I check for donuts. And you go, wait, donuts, spare tires. How many spare tires they have on their car? If somebody really doesn't care about their car, they care about their family, they'll have 3, maybe 2 donuts on that car, and they haven't been driving on them for just 10 miles. They've been driving on them for months. I don't know if you know this about tire shops, but when the normal people, and I'm talking about people that change out their tires 60, 70,000 miles and there's still life left on them and go to a tire shop, the tire shop pays, they charge you $5 to $10 a tire to take it in. They don't throw it away. They put it in the pile of used tires. Now these tenants you have, and you might have tenants that are richer, so they won't have this problem, but I'm talking about the middle of the road tenant, thrifty people. If they got donuts on their cars, they could have gone and got the used tires for 20 bucks a pop and been way better off than driving on donuts. So first I look, see if there's any donuts. I look to see if the car's leaking anything. If the car's running, I listen to make sure it doesn't sound like the engine's trying to get out of the car, or that it's smoking, it smells, all those things. The bumper isn't hanging off, the lights aren't hanging off the car. It doesn't look like they were just in a big Indy 500 car wreck, okay? You look for all that. Now the very last thing I look for, that is one of the biggest tells in the rental business, is as I walk by their car, I look inside. If they don't take care of the inside of their car, they're not going to take care of your house. So what the inside of that car looks like is what your house is going to look like. And prove me wrong, folks. I've got 2 kids. In the back of my wife's car, I got one side that looks like a landfill. I got the other side that looks like a princess palace. My one daughter puts everything in its place. It's pretty. She has little air fresheners. Her room is like that. My other daughter, the young one you saw changing out the laundromat, and I'm going to call her D. Her nickname's going to be, or Monkey. I'm going to call her Monkey. It is her nickname. Monkey's room looks like the landfill, and it drives me nuts. She never puts anything away. She never cleans up after herself. Whoever marries my little daughter Monkey is in for a crazy life. They're gonna have to be. I hope they're not a neat freak, because they're gonna kill her. You know, they're gonna be upset. So that's what it's a perfect tell with my kids. So don't tell them. Don't come at me and say that ain't a tell. It is, and I've proven it a number of times to other landlords, and we laugh about it, and then we take bets on it, and they're like, Jesus, you're right. Yeah, it's a prized possession. It's how they're going to treat your prized possession. So, there you go. Take a look at that car, because every time that car is going to tell you how they're going to be with your property. And now this leads us to step number 4 with a rental property. And this is a pretty easy one. Once you got through the car, like I said, the car is going to be your big tell. You're going to know real quick. The step number 4 is the application. In most states, there's a thing called the Fair Housing Act. Now, the Fair Housing Act basically says that you can't discriminate based on race, sex, religion, ethnic origin, and there's a couple other things. In every state, you just need to look it up and see what it says. Usually the Department of Human Resources in your state handles complaints about that. If you're worried about something you're doing, like these little things I'm telling you about, don't violate it, because they're really just observations. The real thing you're going to use as your evaluating tool, if you ever get in a situation where someone files a complaint with the Fair Housing Act against you, is going to come in on your application. So you're going to do, you're going to have it so it says on there, I can do a credit check on you, I can do a background check on you, I can call your former boss, current boss, I can call your current landlord. It's all going to be on there. You're going to have them put where they live, how much they make, how many kids are going to, not kids, but how many people are going to live in this property, because certain properties, like where I'm at, you're going to only have 2 occupants per bedroom, whether it's male or female, or a male, a child, 2 children. So if I have a 2-bedroom, I can only have 4 occupants. Now, I don't care what the combination is, because you can't discriminate if they have 3 kids. You can't discriminate if it's all older people. You can't discriminate on age. You can't discriminate on children, or if they have children. You just can't do that. You can't discriminate on age of children. That's all in the Fair Housing Act. So you need to really kind of read up on that so you make sure you're not violating it. And my best advice on that is go talk to your Department of Human Resources and say, hey, look, I'm a new landlord. If they can't answer your questions, then the second way I go about it is go to a lawyer. And I mean, people are like, oh, it's going to cost money. A lawyer is going to charge you $150, $200 to sit down with them for a couple hours. Make sure you have your questions written out ahead of time. Maybe even email them to him. When you go talk to him, he's going to give you a copy of his answers. It's the best way you're going to learn, because I don't want to give you advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a financial person. So you really need to do that due diligence on your own, and that in your area will answer every question to a T, and you won't have to worry about getting sued. Because one thing that I need to tell you is knowledge is power. In the rental business, there are career tenants out there that know the law, and they know it backwards and forwards. Some of them know it better than me. That's why I just use a lawyer for a lot of things. But if you have knowledge, you have the power. You have the power to control your fate. So you want to make sure you're educated, and you can't go around just willy-nilly, half-ass and willy-nilly, because if you're going to own property, you need to know the law. So on step number 4, just fill out the application. Have them fill out the application and then check it out. And I'm going to tell you, you're like, well, they could lie. I'll give you an example. I had a lady, she used a family member as her boss. And so you say, well, how, she probably just lied. Well, yeah, she did, but I ask every employer 5 questions. I ask them how long they've worked there. Now remember that question, that's number 1. It's always number 1. I'm going to show you why. I ask them what kind of employee they are. Do they show up on time? Do they go home on time? All that stuff. They eat lunch, all that. Just weird little things. Get them thinking different. Because these 5 questions are going to prove if they're a liar or not. Then question number 3, I ask what kind of job they have. So I get them talking. What kind of business is this? Then question number 4, I ask them how long, do they make the income they claim they make? And then question number 5 is a trick question. I ask them if they've ever had any medical history at work and if they can tell me of any illnesses they've had. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, there's HIPAA laws. HIPAA laws state that other employers, other people cannot ask about your medical history. I know that. You as my viewers know that. But a liar does not know that. I have tripped up more people with question number 5 because they'll start to answer it. Because this person that's lying for this potential tenant can't wait to help them out. So they're trying to make them sound all good and stuff. Most employers, when you get to that question number 5, say, well, because of HIPAA, I can't answer that kind of question. That's what they'll say. Because I'll say to them, hey, this is being tape recorded. You know, I'll say stuff like that early on. So it scares the employers. Not that I want to scare their employer, I just want to make sure that's a real job, a real place. And not just a made-up name. Because they'll put a name of a real company, but they'll put their aunt's number or their cousin. Now, question number 6, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Keenan, you only said there was 5 questions. Where's this question number 6? Well, you remember question number 1, how long have they worked there? Ask it again. Now that you've gotten them distracted, ask question number 6. Ask question number 6 is number 1. Ask it again. Say, hey, I forgot to write it down. Did you say, how long did you say they worked there? Did you say they worked there a year? Did you say they worked there for 3 years? What? Trip them up. And they will lie. They will tell you a different number. It happens all the time because they can't remember after you went through these other goofy questions and they're trying to think all this stuff up because you're asking things they weren't expecting. And it's a beautiful trick, and I've had it play out numerous times. Usually when I re-ask that question or the HIPAA one, usually I've had people either come over and say, hey, look, this is my cousin. She really doesn't work. Okay, thank you. I get them. Trust me. You can tell when people are bullshitting you. When people are BSing you, you can tell. It's like playing poker, folks. Everybody has a tell. You got to find out what their tell is. You got to find out how they're lying. And that's part of the fun of being a landlord, is the detective work. It's not all roses and butterflies and gumdrops. But once you get good at it, once you do it, you just get down to a science. You can have some fun with it. And I like that fun. I don't want you to be too scared and be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Look at all this weird stuff we got to do with people. No, but I want you to be educated. And I want to just pass on some tips that I've learned. Because I've learned from some of the best. I mean, my parents had apartment buildings and houses when I was a little kid, and I watched people lie all the time. And I watched my mom. My mom, I wish she was alive today. My mom could spot a liar in 2 minutes. Probably in a minute. She could smell it. And she was so articulated and really well versed. She could walk people right into a wall with lies. I used to love watching her call people out, and she'd be calling them out and they wouldn't even know it. She'd corner them in a corner in their own lie, because lies get so bad they just start bouncing off each other. So, and then, you know, the last thing, I mean, with step number 4, once you do all this, then you have a pretty good gut idea. You'll have that pit feeling in your stomach whether it's a good tenant or not. And that comes to my last part of this, my conclusion. Even with all that done, there's a small percentage of them that might still get through, but it's very small. Usually whenever I run into a bad tenant after I did all this, it was because I got desperate. I wanted to get somebody in there. Like where I'm at, we have winters. It gets cold. I don't like to pay the heat bill all winter. So sometimes I'd stick people in there just so they pay the utilities. You know, it didn't happen often, but every once in a while I'd get lazy, and that's what I'd do. So the big trick is don't get in a hurry. Don't get lazy. Because all that hard work you did, you're going to have to do that and some. Now the other question the person had was about evictions. I'll do that in another video because this video would be 3 hours long if I keep adding to it, but those are the 4 steps I use to evaluate a potential tenant, and how they evaluate, and basically they're very legit. They're just observations that I do. I really base a lot of it off of the application, so I just want to pass that along. 4 cool tips I have.